Hello, Higher History, and welcome to your next lesson, which is on Cold War Issue 4 essay writing. So, also, Issue 4 was why the USA lost the war in Vietnam. So, this presentation is going to talk you through how you actually write an essay on this issue. Now, just a reminder again of the marks that you can get in your essay. So, introductions were 3 marks, and remember, we need background, line of argument, and facts that you'll discuss. Knowledge, 6 marks for discussing up to 6 key issues/factors. 6 analysis marks, so again, analysis and analysis plus. So, analysis given one point of view, analysis plus given the alternative view or counter argument. 4 marks for evaluation, so judgment on the factor compared to other factors, and then conclusions were 3 marks, so summarising factors, making a final judgment, and giving evidence to support this judgment. So in total it's worth 22 marks. Now, how to write an essay on this topic. So the essay question will ask you to consider the reasons why the USA lost the war in Vietnam, and you're looking to come to the conclusion of which was the most important reason for this happening. Now, in your answer, what you're looking to write about is the following factors. So difficulties faced by US military, strengths of the North Vietnam, weaknesses of South Vietnam, changing public opinion in the USA, and international isolation of the USA. Now, one of these factors will be in the question, so this is known as an isolated factor question. The reason that international isolation of the USA is in bold is because that is the factor in the question that you're going to be answering. So your essay title, this is from the 2018 paper, what you're going to answer is how important was the international isolation of the United States as a reason why America lost the war in Vietnam. So obviously international isolation is in the question, so you need to discuss that factor. You're looking to discuss, was international isolation the most important reason the USA lost the war in Vietnam, or was another factor the most important reason why the USA lost the war in Vietnam? Now again, the factor you can discuss, so why did the USA lose the war in Vietnam? Now I know that you've got your notes from last week, you've got your paragraphs written out as well, but if you want to do a mind map to go over and recap your factors, you can. The factors you can discuss, as we've mentioned, international isolation of the USA, which is in the question. You've got difficulties faced by US military, strengths in North Vietnam, weaknesses of South Vietnamese army, and changing public opinion. So that's your 5 factors. Remember, you need to speak about international isolation because that's in the question. Then you choose the other 3 which you want to discuss. Now, a quick recap of the factors is available in a separate PowerPoint. This is just the first slide from it. So the Cold War 1945 to 1989, reasons USA lost the Vietnam War. So that PowerPoint has been attached via the assignment tab as well as available on Teams. So you can go through that if you want to, and that recaps the factors, the key factors that you can discuss in this essay. And it might have some additional information that we never discussed last week. So you can go over that PowerPoint there if you want to include anything from that PowerPoint, but that just goes over and recaps the factors. So if you want to pause the video at this point and go out and look and go through that PowerPoint, you could, but that's just there to support you with writing an essay for this section as well. Now, historiography, we've not discussed a lot of historiography for the Vietnam War, but you may want to use historiography to improve your analysis, for example. So we've got an example of historiography here. So as George Herring explains, the failings of the South Vietnamese army meant that they were excluded from many operations. He said chronic security infiltrations of the highest level meant that the SVA were not allowed in many US bases or on operations, meaning that the US lacked effective allies and shows a contributing factor as to why the US withdrew from the Vietnam War. So that's just one historian's opinion. You can research on the internet and find out more historians' opinions as well if you want to include them in your essay. But that's an example of one there, that's George Herring. Now, just to go over for this essay, your introduction. So remember, your introduction is worth 3 marks. So you need context, which is background, so describing the important events or facts, factors that you will discuss, and your line of argument. Now here's an example introduction which you can use. You can obviously change this introduction if you want to, if you don't want to use this exact introduction, or you can use this as a framework to help you as well. So we have here to start with background. So by 1949, communists had taken over China. Now the US saw the Viet Minh as the puppets of Mao Zedong, who was obviously the leader of China at this time, and they feared the communist plan to dominate all of Southeast Asia. So there's background point 1. The policy of containment and a belief in the so-called domino theory led to the increased American military involvement in Vietnam in order to stop the growth of communism. The Americans faced a variety of problems during the conflict. So there's background point 2. However, by 1969, the US had lost the support of the public, lost the war in Vietnam, and Nixon had started to withdraw their troops, with the final troops leaving Vietnam in 1979. So that'd be plenty for your background there. Then you have your factors. So one main reason for the US withdrawal from Vietnam, so the isolated factor there, so you could say the international isolation of the USA was also one reason. However, there were other factors, some more important, that led to American defeat, such as, and you just list your other factors there. Then obviously the last part of your introduction, you need your line of argument. So the aim of this essay is to explore to what extent the international isolation of the United States was the main reason why America lost the war in Vietnam. However, evidence strongly suggests blank is the most important factor when discussing why the US lost the war in Vietnam. Now, if you think it is international isolation, you could obviously say that that is the most important. However, if you think it's another factor, then obviously you could reword that there and say what factor you think is the most important. So that's an example introduction that you can use. You don't need to use this one, but that's an example introduction. You can even use parts of this to support you in writing your introduction. Your conclusion, remember, that's worth 3 marks. You're looking to summarise your factors, so give a balanced opinion. You're looking to give a clear answer, so what was the most important reason, and to give evidence for this conclusion. So here's an example conclusion that you could use. So in conclusion, blank was the most important reason why the US lost the war in Vietnam because. Okay, so you'd say, here's the most important reason, here's the reason why. On one hand, blank, so you could say another factor was important to US defeat because, but not as important as your most important reason because, and give a reason there. On the other hand, blank, so again refer to another factor was also important as, and give a reason, but not as important as, again go back to your most important because. So make sure you're always referring back to your most important reasons as to why that is the most important reason America lost the war in Vietnam. Then again, to get your final mark, make sure you finish off at the end. So overall, the most important reason why the US withdrew from the war in Vietnam and lost the war was, so put your main reason there, and this was because. So make sure you finish off at the end with a clear argument as to why it was the most important reason. Again, this is a good framework that you could use to help you in writing your conclusion. Okay, so this is an example of evaluation here. Now, as we discussed, evaluation is tricky. In your essay, you're looking to decide which factor you feel is the most important, and obviously argue that at the end of that paragraph, and then at the end of your other paragraph, you're looking to argue why the factor is important, but not as important as your most important factor that you're arguing. So this is just an example here that you could use. So we've got here, in evaluation, the difficulties faced by US military, such as search and destroy and bombing campaigns not being successful, were very important to US losing the war because it led to the US alienating the local Vietnamese peasants due to the fact that the US destroyed their house and crops looking for Viet Cong weapons. So that's the end of your paragraph there on difficulties faced by US military. However, the strengths of the North were more important because the North were able to win the hearts and minds of locals by helping them with daily chores, including rebuilding their homes, which ensured their loyalty to the Viet Cong, putting the US at a disadvantage. So you're arguing here, or this evaluation is arguing, that it was the strengths of the North that were the most important reason for the US losing the war in Vietnam. Here's another example here of evaluation. So this would be at the end of your paragraph on weaknesses of the South. So in evaluation, the weaknesses of the South Vietnamese army played a role in the US losing the war because they did not have one commanding leader, as each commanding general effectively ran small private forces, resulting in poor communication and attacks and little loyalty and respect for their leaders. However, the strengths of the North were more important because the North were all united under Ho Chi Minh, and the North Vietnamese army was controlled overall by General Giap, meaning their attacks against the US were coordinated and the soldiers showed loyalty to their leader. So again, you've said, well, here's why the weakness of the South Vietnamese army was important, but here's why it isn't as important as the most important factor, which is strengths of the North. So that's an example there, just a couple of evaluations that you could use again, or a framework to use for writing your evaluation. Okay, so over to you. So for this essay here, your essay title is obviously how important was the international isolation of the United States as a reason why America lost the war in Vietnam. So you're looking to use this PowerPoint, use your notes from last week and the great work that you did last week, and the recap of factors PowerPoint, which I've also attached, which I mentioned earlier on, to help you to write this essay. So all of this will help you to write an essay on this issue. If you have any questions or any issues with writing this essay, then please just let myself or Mrs. Forte know. Thank you very much.